Good morning. We are, let's see, we are live. Copy, paste, send, and then we go to here. We'll do this one. I don't have anything on the agenda today. No direction. Uh, let's just mute that. Okay, that's good. And we'll pin it. Pin message. So good morning, everybody. I don't know, weird day yesterday. We kind of celebrated Mother's Day a week early because I'm working next weekend. Although I didn't know that was the goal of things prior to the day starting. My wife and her mother went to The Devil Wears Prada. And they said it was a good movie. I had mentioned to my wife, wrongly or rightly so, that I didn't. The first movie was okay, but it kind of missed on a couple of points for me. Mainly the fact that career was taking over family through the movie. I didn't really like it from that perspective, but you know, hard work, determination, really getting into whatever it is that you do. Those were all very good lessons, and it had some funny parts in it. And yeah, but they, I don't know. I guess it just came out, so I don't know if I should do any kind of spoilers or anything. So, where are we? I got a new camera yesterday, and a tripod. I believe the tripod. Shabam. So I was kind of back and forth on it, because it wasn't more than I expected it was going to cost, but it still wasn't. It didn't feel right spending the money. I got a microphone box. So this thing has this guy, and this comes with an iPhone jack or a USB-C jack, and it connects like that, and then you can plug that into your device. So this is the receiver, and then you have the microphone part. I'm sure I could probably hook it up to the computer. I could probably hard jack it in here. So that might be what I have to do here. So hold on a second. I'm going to swap over. Boop. Hello, testing. Looks like it's coming through. I see little green dots. So my headphones are not working. So now we're going to use these guys. I can clip this maybe somewhere here. And we can do that. I'm going to turn these off. Disconnect. There we go. And we should be on the TV sound. So we'll see. I guess I could test it on the YouTube. So we'll go here. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Doesn't look like it's coming through. Interesting. Bars there, green bars there. Maybe I have to mute mic on where. Oops. Wrong button. Good morning. Give me 1 second. I'm figuring out my headphone situation.
You're coming through loud and clear.
There you go. Were you hearing me?
Yeah, loud and clear. I think the sound quality has changed because I think if you put your earbuds in, the sound quality deteriorates a little because I guess it's passing through something else, but obviously it's audible, so that will have to do.
Well, I couldn't hear on my end. I couldn't hear you or myself on my end. So I'll have to finagle with it. I got it late yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So this was actually my first time trying it on the computer.
But Brett says he can hear you okay, I think.
Okay. So I was getting green dots on that guy too, but it wasn't coming through on me. Well, thank you.
That sounds a bit technical for me. You have to switch audio sources. Yeah. No, I'm fine. Yes, I had two quite interesting streams yesterday with Burbling Bison and a bunch of people. Including yes, Chris. Sometimes I talk to too many people. It becomes a bit vague, but yeah. It's Bank Holiday Monday in the UK. Do you get a special holiday, day off on Monday tomorrow?
No,
in America.
I work in the hospital tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Tomorrow's May 4th?
The 4th, Monday.
Yeah, no. Mexico, it looks like they have a day on the 5th. No, I'm kidding. Cinco de Mayo on May 5th. It's teasing a little bit there because Americans have turned Mexican Independence Day. It's actually the Battle of Pueblo Day. And they've turned it into a drinking day.
What is Pablo? What is the Battle of Pablo? I haven't heard of that.
Pueblo, yeah. It was supposed to be. It's somehow related to Mexico getting their independence. I believe from Spain, but it's not officially their day, from what I know from the guys that I used to hang out with and play golf with. I'm not exactly familiar with the history, but somehow Americans do what Americans do, and we take things and turn it into a drinking day.
Yeah, your audio is kind of a little bubbly, I think. But
yeah, I probably gotta pull it away from my sweatshirt. Is that better?
Yeah, but I thought it might be connectivity issues. So, yeah.
Oh, that could be too. So, do you have any pearls of wisdom from your engagements yesterday?
Yeah, I think I learn a lot when I when I talk to people, and um, I suppose what my problem is. I think, well, if people know this, then they will think that, but quite often they don't, even if they acknowledge the truth of some particular statement, they won't necessarily come to the same conclusion, but at least they acknowledge the same premise, I suppose. And I guess my problem is getting people to accept that rules can be helpful, even though um, we don't know them. We like to think we're free, and we like to think we know what to do and what not to do, and we don't like it written down, and people pointing to the law when it when we're at the wrong end of the stick. But I think, for the Romans, certainly the working classes, the plebs, they actually said, tell us what our rights are, carve it on stones in the forum, so we know what our rights are, and when we want to start a legal action, we know what to do, because we haven't got libraries, because we're only the working class, and we don't have spaces for scrolls and stuff like that. So yeah, but in my opinion,
Do you think our laws aren't written down?
well, I think the problem is not. It's not enough, even if you have the most perfect system. You need people to be prepared to defend the law and say, "Oh, hey, what you're doing, it's against the law. You better stop." And of course, you can have a situation where people are actually afraid of their rulers, because their rulers might do mean things to them if they call them out.
Well, I mean, so
Or ignore them.
me personally, I think the laws are written down so much so. I think that's kind of why the Ten Commandments were air quotes vague, and then it eventually came. I don't know what the 635, 535 laws.
613 laws of
Yeah, 613 laws, right? But then there's like all these kind of side situations or edge cases or whatever. And I think after 250 years and a lot of technology, I think a lot of people are to the point where they think that just writing the law has boxed everybody in, and that those laws are improperly skewed to the lower classes. So they've kind of gotten they know the laws don't apply equally to everyone across the board. Let me say it that
exactly.
way. So writing more laws down doesn't help. And as a matter of
I'm certainly
fact,
not.
yeah,
I'm certainly not saying that. I think the ruling classes have forfeited the trust of those they govern, and it's going to be really hard to get it back again, because it was actually, I remember George Bush Senior making this joke about politicians. If their lips are moving, they're lying. You can tell the politician is lying when his lips are moving. It's a very old joke, and things have worsened since. And I mean, I guess the question is, how would the government regain the trust of voters? And I don't think people even begin to think of the scale of it, because I mean I think if I were American and I voted for Trump, and I kind of feel a bit guilty, because I was thinking, well, Trump's the one who does say these things that might make things better, end the endless wars, etc. And then he's just gone and started another one. So I mean, what is one to do
and
other
he
than
was an
question?
outsider. And he was an outsider. So
Yeah,
that's kind of been, I mean, the way I see the last couple cycles is it was a bunch of outsiders, because Obama was kind of considered an outsider as well. He hadn't spent years in politics. He did his thing a little bit in Chicago. I think he was only a one-term senator when he ran, so he hadn't had years and years. But this is the argument I sometimes have made to my son, that if you are going to pursue a life in politics, you're kind of already grooming yourself way back when. And I believe it was Plato that said your society is not going to amount to much if your politicians, that's their only strive, is to be a politician. So I think the American people have attempted in their voting, based on the options that have been given them, right? Because most people have come to the place where, in order to even get to the position where you might be elected through our system as a candidate, you already have had to scratch backs, cut into your personal stances in order to
Salami
get
slice
to
your
that.
principles away.
Yeah. So then by the time you get there, it's almost impossible, because now you have stuff to lose. And so this is one reason why I often will point in these conversations to local governments. And you're starting to see that. Things like sanctuary cities, things like on the other end of the aisle where you have, not enforcing gun laws, you're starting to see this from a local level. And as a matter of fact, me and my son had a conversation yesterday about the redistricting that's been going on around here, and how even our local maps are being manipulated by the federal end of things. And
the gerrymandering, is that where it
Yeah.
comes from, the word? Yeah.
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 And so even at the local level, in order to draw the map for the federal representation, because what I found in my conversation, we both agreed with the premise that gerrymandering has been going on since it started, right? If you think about any highly intelligent person who gets the idea, okay, we need to redraw the district, you're going to try to redraw the district in a game theory kind of way that gets your side the most benefit, right? You need to find a way to cancel out the votes from the other side with the numbers and drawing the map, so that those cancel out, and then whatever's left over you get to have, so that you can take a majority and then it gets rewritten every census based on the population of each state. So what is the right way?
Yeah, and Bond, the kind of people who would support you.
Well, so that was.
So you would want the kind of people who would support you. So I guess if you're Democrat.
Well, so I was trying to make I think the cultural differences are drawn between urban and rural. So because if you think about the needs of people, right, the needs of the poor farmer and the needs of the poor urban person are going to be quite a bit different, right? And so that would be where I would draw the lines. And what we did was we worked it out with Louisiana as kind of the test case. So we took Shreveport, Baton Rouge, and New Orleans Metro. And we kind of said, what is the total population for those three areas? And it came out to be just shy of half, right? So it's what you do with that kind of remainder, and then the rest of it's rural. But I believe they were getting 7 representatives. So, because like in the map of Georgia, you got all of Northeast Georgia, and then it's got this finger that dives down into the metro area, right? And the reason they're doing that is to try to draw in Democratic votes to offset the Republican votes that are in the far northeast corner of the state. So, like I said, and it got heated because, of course, the temperature is driven up to freaking boiling point, so that they drive polls and do all this stuff and look at what the other side's doing. It's so awful. And it doesn't go anywhere. is kind of the point. And I think a lot of people are to the point where, like, we're sitting around a campfire watching the thing burn, right?
Yeah, I was trying to make the point also that if you're gerrymandering, you would kind of be colluding with the other side because if you're the Democrat Party, you would want to collect a whole bunch of people who are going to support your policies. So it might be, well, I don't know, as you say, poor people, people living in trailer parks, etc. And then if you're Republican, you want the middle class areas, right? And then you might kind of agree with the other side. Well, you take this and I take that, and then it's a collusion and a corrupt one. At the expense of the voter who's still not getting what he wants, even though he is participating in the, selection process. And I guess, what really drives me crazy is that I think it was in 2021 in February, I was following events so closely after the stolen election thing that I was listening to the senator reading out the speech of George Washington, and then it all became clear, all the advice he gave and how much of it is ignored, particularly the one he said about well, you shouldn't have political parties because it will be the end of you, my fellow Americans, because you will be, you already have your divisions, but you will be unnecessarily divided if you countenance this party system. And then I know it's become part of the culture, and it's not just a culture of America. People just want to vote. Even people who question the system and who are the victims of the system, they want more voting because they want to think that one day they will finally vote for the, leader or party that will, do what they want. So, unless you tackle this belief, I don't see how it's going to change. But then if you try to, it's a heresy, right? And then people will call you, fascist and commie and, all that sort of thing. And I'm saying, but Americans can say it's Washingtonian. Our founding father, Washington, warned us against this very thing.
Yeah, I don't think it'll go anywhere. And I think most people in America don't think it'll go anywhere. They've been making their claims known now for the better part of my whole life, and they get ignored. Politicians and people in power right now, they don't want to solve problems because, quite frankly, there's not that many left, I would say. Like, they want to keep the idea that there's problems that you have to elect us in order to fix these problems. That, I mean, look, I'm not saying that there's not suffering. I do believe there's suffering. I also believe there's always going to be suffering on this side of death. And so,
they'll be saying that the poor will always be complaining. The poor will always be with us, and that was what Jesus said. Or
But what most people in this country don't realize is if you make some kind of crazy low number in terms of yearly salary, I want to say it's somewhere around $40,000 a year. If you make $40,000 a year in this country, you are considered the top 1% of the world. It's not that high of a number, right? And if you make less than that, you end up getting all kinds of benefits. One of the biggest problems I have with welfare is when you make enough to come off of welfare, you actually take a $15,000 a year hit because you lose so many benefits. It's called the welfare trap. Yes.
In the UK. So people stay on welfare. And,
right.
And this is one of the, maybe, I get into trouble for saying this, but really, if you think about it, slavery is the most efficient form of workfare. Because then you're actually making the person, they've already got food and accommodation, and then they, are supposed to work, and there is no requirement to ill-treat them. But this was how the ancients got around the problem of people being not being able to feed themselves and find a roof over their heads without starving on the street.
Mostly from debt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is, completely ignored. But of course, once you have the welfare state, it will just get bigger and bigger because of the welfare trap issue. But now it's kind of become, a sacred Western thing. We abolished slavery, and then if you look at the Bible or even the Quran, I mean, God forbade a lot of things, but He never forbade slavery or, in fact, prostitution. And this is something people can't deny, but they don't want to talk about it either.
Well,
But
I
if
think
God,
people, I think the slavery issue in particular in America has been framed in such a way that people cannot see it without thinking racism. So they can't see, and this is one of my worries actually, because we've allowed ourselves to be blinded to the fact. Okay, and we don't ask the question. We just say the Bible's wrong because it doesn't condone this thing. But we don't ask the question, why has this practice been in place for so long? And I think you're pointing to that reason. And one of the things that I would say, not that it keeps me up at night, but one of the things that I think is like a black swan in all this is the amount of debt our country holds. And eventually, the world, when and if this thing crumbles, because there's many, many, many ways that it can crumble. And this is why you hear intellectual people talking about the things like metacrisis, because there's a number of things that can happen, whether it be a massive X flare from the sun, whether it be just simply people not trusting the money anymore, because the money's not backed with anything. And once people stop trusting the money, and if I don't believe that I can take your $5 and go buy something somewhere else for $5, that stops everything, right? You're
will be
not gonna
reduced to
be willing.
barter.
Well, it stops everything. And because everything is tied to the United States dollars, you don't get products from China. You don't get wheat from Ukraine. You don't get the oil from the Middle East. Like you can't even get products from down the street because nobody's going to do the work because there's no way to guarantee. So, like, and that's not even something like a pandemic or famine where which these things happen, right? And so yeah, I think
It's kind of fail state, Mad Max scenario.
yeah.
If your money's no good, if no contract is going to be enforced, your schools close down, your hospitals close down,
And then guess what
bridges.
comes back with a vengeance? Things like slavery, because that's the only thing you have to barter with is your work, your time, right? So what are you willing to do for a can of beans becomes the question, right? And if you got, this is one reason why I try not to be so judgmental to the air quote criminal. It's in part because of the way I grew up. A lot of the people that I were around didn't have clean records, but that doesn't mean they weren't bad people. They were just in situations where at the moment they had to make a decision, and not all the time did they make the right decision. And I say that kind of loosely in the terms of right. And this gets us back to you and just having the laws written down. It doesn't speak to people's situations. And while I also talk badly a little bit about the way the welfare system's set up, I don't disagree with helping people. I just think that the system has been manipulated, just like the voting system, just like politics, just like the news, has all been manipulated and skewed to not bring forth the fruit they were designed to bring forth.
Yes, and on the question of slavery, it's still legal in American prisons, and American prisons are run by private companies like Serco, who extract from the prisoners slave
Yep,
labor. And
that's
that's
an
why Kamala
interesting
Harris was
point.
so happy to, as state prosecutor, send loads of people she knew were innocent into jail, and even parents of truanting children she sent to jail and laughed about it. So,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
obviously there needs to be a supply of labor in of slaves rather in American prisons. And because it's only half acknowledged and half known, you don't, people don't really understand, or maybe they lack the education to understand the principle of the thing of antitrust laws and, corrupt monopolies. And social media platforms are, in a way, corrupt monopolies. Because they control the message. They close down your account. Once upon a time, if you dare to mention vaccines and stolen elections, it's all
that's
over
coming
now.
back.
But,
they didn't stop that.
Of course, they would do that. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose of going digital. And like the generation that's coming up, they barely even understand the concept behind money. Like there was a very, very hard fought battle to whether or not we should even have currency.
Interest.
Yeah. I'm looking to talk to Nathaniel about this. He was sick this week, and my schedule's full for the next little while. But I'm really interested to talk to him about the usury, and because we participate in that as well. Because prices are so inflated, in order for you to be able to get, especially a place like I live, you can't do anything without a car, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to have a car. And so what does that leave you? Most people don't have $20,000 sitting in the bank, right?
Yeah, and when it breaks down, it costs you what, over $1,000 to have it fixed or something.
Mm-hmm.
And other countries have public transport. And so people think of commuting.
Not the answer.
No,
Brett said UBI is how we fix it.
But that's also a trap, because if you decide to stay on it, then it means that you're kind of committing to never marrying, never starting a family, and becoming one of those useless eaters that they will invite to commit suicide in time.
But that's what they're already choosing that on their own, right? The young folks. This is why you're seeing the birth rate collapse that you're seeing in the West. They're already choosing it just simply out of despair.
Yes, and we're kind of fed scenes of violence to put us in fear and make us despair. And what I've noticed also is that people who are Christian are kind of being made to think like atheists. Like I think Luke Thompson's, he was talking about, well, how long do people stay in hell, kind of thing, or when you're dead, you're dead, and there's no hell. But that's the atheist thing, right? Because the whole belief system of the Abrahamic God is if you're good, you enjoy eternal bliss. If you're bad, you suffer eternal torment, and that, if believed, will motivate people into doing the right thing, or stop them from doing the wrong thing. But if even people who claim to be Christian think like atheists, then what's the point? And of course they would be.
I didn't catch the link. I'm sorry. Between Christians think. Maybe you could say how a Christian's supposed to think quickly, and then how it's inverted to think like an atheist, because I don't understand the link there.
Yes. Originally, as I understand it from literature and books I've read, Christians and Muslims, would believe that if they've been good, they go to heaven. If they've been bad, they go to hell, and hell is where people suffer eternally. I mean, it's the worst place imaginable, and obviously heaven is the best place imaginable. And then through listening to Luke Thompson, he was talking about something called annihilationism, which means death is the end. But I know he's an Orthodox Christian, so what's he doing? But believing that when you're dead, and nothing much happens other than you're dead, which takes away not only the fear of death, but also the fear of being made accountable for the evil that we do, if that is what we have done.
I don't think. I mean, I kind of see your corollary. I would not to, because I'm not super familiar, but what excuse me.
Bless you.
What I think that the Orthodox tradition believes is that there'll be an opportunity for everybody to justifiably so be saved. I think that's their claim, that the power of God is so great, his love is so great, that through penance, purgatory, that sort of thing, that there will be a price to pay. It just won't be the air quotes hell that everybody thinks. Now, purgatory could be, a sense of hell because it could be so bad in order to get the transformation to take place. But I don't think they don't believe in, like, you know what I mean, that there's not consequences for your actions in this life.
Well, I mean, you hear the late Pope Francis saying everyone has a reasonable chance of getting to heaven. And I remember, Catholics were like, what, everyone, including non-Catholics? Come on.
Right.
What were we being Catholic for? And, attending extra long masses and feeling all that Catholic guilt, and Protestants can get to, there's something I thought, a bit odd about it, because if you really believe in your kind of Christianity, I guess you would have to believe that the other kinds are wrong. But I noticed that with Americans, that they're quite happy to mix and match and blend their kind of Christianity, because because of the transport thing, right? You move from one state to another, and you find a church you like. It's not the denomination of your parents, but you can't drive all that way, wherever it is, to go to that same church. So you make do with the nice people that you found in a church not so far from you. Isn't that how it works?
So I would say that the spirit of America that we try to live by is the fact that we want to be able to fold in as much as we can fold in and make a melting pot. And so with that spirit, you have to have a very high degree of openness to bring in the different things that are good. I think one of the issues that we see, especially around things like immigration, is that we folded in too many chocolate chips. And so now we don't have cookies, we have melted chocolate. And we're trying to get around the idea of how we incorporate the new things in without losing the spirit of the thing, right? Because in order for it to yield the end product, it's got to be mixed well. And so I would say that's the spirit that you're pointing to, is that we don't follow necessarily the same tradition as our parents. I do think that has a big part to do with the fact that my generation in particular was raised around things like self-esteem and individualism to a very high degree. I think it was another spirit that was trying to separate the ideal of family structure. Because I think any society, and just make sure I give you time. We got 4 minutes till Chris's show, so I'll try to give you the last word here. But I think that, and this is why I'm in our conversations, I'm always pointing down the stack, because I think without strong, kept together families, then anything we try to build from the top down is ultimately going to lead to something like a tyranny, because you don't have that fundamental building block structure at the family level that you can build all the other structures on. You can't get to community, you can't get to functioning states, you can't get to functioning federal government if at the very bottom essence of your society you don't have a strong family. So
yes, with a sense of authority which comes from the father, and we already know that 40% of I think it's parents, or the illegitimacy rate is 40%, and that was actually I think in 2017, and they say it's still 40% now. I suspect it is somewhat higher. In the UK, it is over 50%. So how are you going to correct that if most people, are born in fatherless homes with no discipline. You know, when the adolescent, as soon as he or she is taller or the same height as mum, will rebel and say, "Who are you to tell me what to do?" And so we have this social problem which is not even being discussed, let alone addressed, in my view. And as you say, things will get worse unless the fundamentals are addressed. And forget even the foreigners. It's sort of like marriage is a human tradition because no other species does it. Only humans do it. And you may think me cynical, but I think it is actually religion that was created to impose this practice, because otherwise people would just prefer to screw around and pump and dump women, and who wants to look after children, and that kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, this is one reason why I am a strong advocate against parents' rights. Parents' rights, and look, if you don't want to have babies, that's up to you. You don't have to have babies, but you keep your grubby little dirty fingers off mine, because I want to instill those values in my kid. I want, as a man raising a father, I want to raise a man who is not going to sit there and watch a woman get molested on a train, right? Mm-hmm. I would much more rather see the man that I have taken part in raising face the arrows of a court system that is wrongly accusing me of standing up for the rights of a woman on a train every single time. Right.
Yes.
And that's even something we're seeing. Right.
Well, you are standing up for the principle of being a man, but feminism is saying we're all the same. So it gives men the excuse to behave like women, and to say, well, feminism says we're all the same, and I feel fear,
Yeah,
and
no, I agree, but I think
to women.
I think the only reason. I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say it. Well, look, it's 6:29. Thanks, okay, Claire, for stopping in. I hope it was helpful for you.
Thank you for the conversation.
Yes, ma'am. Right. Thank you.
Bye.